Hi, everyone. AI is no longer waiting outside the school gates. It's already in the staff room, the classroom, the homework, and the marking pile. Interest in how AI technologies can be integrated into education is booming, but so are the big questions around bias, around workload, safety, equity, and what happens to the human heart of teaching. So, is AI in education our friend, our foe, or a mirror showing us what already needs to change? Welcome to this week's episode. My name is Yvonne, and joining you from my kitchen, in my kitchen with Yvonne. I would love for us to dive straight into the conversation. But before we do that, I want to introduce you to the lovely Shabani Bose, who is joining us. She is a woman on fire, running two businesses, not just one, with a huge team. And in the middle of that, there is AI. So before we get going, Shabani, please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing and what is interesting for you about AI in the classroom.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. Thanks for having me, first of all. I would like to put a definition to that huge team. We are still a boutique, small firm, but making a huge impact. So a huge team in the sense of huge impact, absolutely. So Yvonne, my background's strategic data consulting. I have been delivering huge data transformation for the bigger enterprises. And since the last 7-8 years, I focused on sectors that has more societal impact, right? So education, housing associations, primarily education being. And I wanted to focus on those because the data maturity is very nascent. And, so the education sector, the data and AI literacy, they are all driven by compliance, risk, not really thinking how do we position things strategically to deliver. And as a result of that, of course, I'm CEO and founder of Disha.ai that helps schools group to, first of all, think of data very differently. Data is not just your assessment or your grades, but more holistically. And as we speak about that, it will be a fundamental core aspect into the world of AI as well, as we speak about bringing AI into the classrooms, right? So that's my introduction. I think you asked a question, but I missed the question. Do you want to ask the question again?
Don't worry, we'll get into it. I'm very sure as we go on further in the conversation, it will come up. As I was looking at today's episode and doing some research, it's a really big one. You find people on one side, they're saying AI is a friend. We are building all this. Cloud, you'll see open cloud. There's all this excitement about the possibilities of AI. And then on the other side as well, you'll find people say, oh my God, we need to stay far away from this because there's so many things that can go wrong. And it'll be really interesting to look into data specifically, because the more I looked into it, the more I realized this is a conversation we cannot afford to not have. And have it early and have it maturely. So AI is not just technology anymore. Yeah, it's not a piece of tech. It's not a tool. I had somebody the other week, they came to the show, they said it's more like a language. Shabani, from your experience, from looking at data, what is AI specifically? What would you say in your opinion?
So first and foremost, I would like to put this, that I love that technology, right?
Well,
I have a personal thing about humanizing or putting a label to that technology. For example, making it either friend or foe. The moment as adults we try to humanize that, remember it is in every aspect of your life. I mean, AI has been in existence since 15, 20 years ago in a different form. It has penetrated the very skeleton of society across everywhere since 22 with the launch of open ChatGPT and Copilot and henceforth. So the mass adoption of AI is only a couple of years ago. AI in a very different form existed from a long time. Now, the reason, because it has become a very mass adoption, penetrating to the classrooms, to the children, the reason I don't want to put a label, because, and in the context of education, in the context of classrooms that are using, you want to retain the human touch, always. You want to think of any AI technology. I mean, the technology has immense potential to be very proactive, to drive personalized learning, to increase engagement in classrooms, all of that. But when we say all of that, remember, we are talking of the outcome of a technological implementation. You cannot jump to the outcome without going through those steps to understand what is it that puts the guardrails in the right areas, that brings through the process, you want to make sure that what makes us as humans is retained, and what makes the non-repeated, non-human, non-critical thinking aspects, the repetitions are given, right? And what can we do at scale is what you need to focus at. Because humans, everything that humans are good for, you have to retain that. And when we speak about any technological implementation, specifically when it comes to AI tools, data is a huge aspect to it. Now, let me give you a little example of what I mean by this. So, I'm sure everybody has done this. I was on the ChatGPT, and Diwali is, from where I come, is a huge sort of celebration. And I thought, let me ask ChatGPT to create an image for a British woman with ethnically Asian origin and celebrating Diwali. Create me an image. Now, the ChatGPT kept creating an image with a woman wearing a sari with a bindi, and I kept looking at that. No, that's not me. Do you know what I mean? That's not me. So after a few repetitions, I'm like, okay, no, I can't get ChatGPT to produce that image. But because I come from that core foundational aspect of how data and how AI tools work, I know that the model and the image generation model has been trained to look at Diwali, look at British ethnic, Asian ethnic woman, and has a biased view of what does that mean. And it gave me an image that did not fit with what I believe should have represented me. So just like how I say that the technology has huge potential to change the ways of working, to make sure it reaches the areas that it should reach, and proactively help students that are either disengaged, because it can do things at scale. Equally, if you have biased data sets, if you have not entire global data sets that represents all aspects of society, it is not going to give the right results to the students as they are going through. So it's very important that when you bring an AI technology, you have these mindsets, not just looking at the outcome, right? We started with saying the technology has huge potential to enhance your personalized learning. Those are outcomes we are talking about. But to get to that outcomes, you got to ask the right question. You got to be very deliberate, be very intentional in making sure that you understand the process, the purpose. What is it that we are feeding into that brings that, first, retains the human aspects of what would never come through a technology, and additionally, it's almost like a working together for the betterment of the younger kids.
And that's exactly the kind of powerful thing that keeps coming up again and again with AI. can we trust it? How do we go about it so that we can create, information that we can trust? And so I think today on our conversation, there's certain key things that we would like to really look into. So one of those, I was looking at the promise of AI versus the reality, especially within an education setting. So we've just said, yes, it can genuinely help, and also it can hide some of the hype, that we keep hearing. So that's one of the things. Maybe let's explore a little bit deeper the promise versus the reality. How do we create data sets we can trust? How do we create prompts? Even before, and you said it so beautifully there, Sabina, even before we look at the tool itself, which is the outcome, we need to be thinking about what we're inputting in there so that we get the outcome that we want. And then the other one that's really, really important, which again you touched on, when we look at things like differentiation and the ability of the students, as we're rushing towards this AI, who's going to get left behind, right? There will be people that will be left behind. And therefore, how can we help to ensure that there is more equitableness created, even with all these exciting changes that are coming on and as we're moving very fast? So let's maybe find out, are there ways in which we are communicating this? Is there ways that we're measuring who's benefiting, and how do we make sure that we are bringing them? And then the next thing is, and I love what you say, we need to be more human. Yeah. What's the cost? What's the human cost in the more we explore the use of AI? Yes, we're saying teachers can be helped with workload. That's a really good thing. The student voice can be more heard because now you can carry out huge surveys. Leadership can be better supported because the things that used to keep you up because you had all these admin tasks that you were doing, now the AI can do it in minutes and sometimes seconds. Safeguarding. This is a big one. If we can be able to introduce AI and therefore support the future of learning in a really good way, these are some things that will be really interesting for us to talk about. And before I forget, you know what? Let's pull up a chair. There's a lot that we need to talk about. Now, before we get into it, I just want to mention something that's really deep. It really touches me deeply because my mom used to be a teacher. My dad was also in education. And through the years, when I was a child in different education systems, I have watched top-down policies get put into education. In fact, just this morning when I woke up, one of my colleagues had sent me a video where they were in a conference. And I think it was the CEO of Minerva online school was saying there's so many problems, in education. They're not being tackled. There's never been a time where there's been so much SCN. There's never been a time where there has been so much teachers leaving the profession because there's so much workload. How? With AI. So what we have introduced in Lockrise is the OBC Expert Program. And so before I bring our topic even further, I'd just like to introduce the OBC Expert Program. It's a program that is bottom up. Different experts in society, perhaps they're teachers or ex-teachers or deputies or ex-deputy leadership management, and they have an idea, but not necessarily the business acumen of growing that idea so that the help can be felt in a broader perspective. And we've introduced the OBC Expert Program, which supports these people who have all these brilliant ideas, be able to bring these ideas to at least 100 schools within a year. So in order for us to hold these OBC Expert Programs, we are looking for sponsors to support each of these workshops. And so the experts can be supported, but also the schools can have them either low cost or for free. So if you would like to know more about the OBC Expert Program that Lockrise and Lockrise Match are holding from June, July, moving into the new year, do give us a call. Now, let's get right into it and start on our first topic. So if we were to jump in and ask you, Shabani, if you had a magic wand and you're coming with data into schools and telling schools, this is how you use your data, and this is how you benefit as a school, where would you start?
So I speak a lot on looking at a child holistically, right? Those conversations that teacher has with a child, those parents that dropped the child and there was a little bit of within the household, things were not exactly how it would be, or an incident happened. Just make sure today's day is slightly different. And it may just be that the child has an assessment that day, right? So we speak a lot around AI-based marking, right? How do you pick up that emotion of that child being slightly different? There was a conversation that the parent had with the child which might impact that marking and assessment. So your question was, so when I go and I speak to schools, I always first try to give them that helicopter view of looking at a child holistically. There is a natural tendency always to jump to solutions, and this is why I mentioned that people jumping into AI tools and their outcomes, but it's very important to go through those processes. It's very important to set the foundational aspect. So I ask schools that what impact does your staff absences have on a child's behavior no, so that is an exercise then they have to do, right? Okay, so if you think about how schools look at either behavior or attendance, they are very siloed, but none of them are actually siloed output, right? You do not, yes, you can look at attendance just on the number, but then there is a whole sort of context to it. There is a whole data point that feeds into it. And that's what we try to help schools, that bring that context of the whole child together, irrespective of where that data holds. Once you have all of that information together, once you have the context put in, even your AI tools will become better in, even if it is just recommending predictions.